Okay, go ahead.
Okay, hopefully the mic works all right. So I just wanted to come by and say thank you to everyone that participated in our little wellness month that we had. Um, and then we have a little celebratory Costco cake on your way out. So donuts on the way in, cake on the way out. Just really grateful for your participation. We have post surveys that have been emailed out. There's also a QR code if you guys want to scan that. Or upstairs, there's a paper copy if you like filling out surveys by hand too. And for those that fill out the survey, we'll have a few prizes that we'll raffle off. So the post survey will be open through the end of this week. And then next week we'll raffle off a few prizes. So I think there's a massage gun, a coloring book, a Stanley cup, little head massager thing, and a little gift card. So I'd be super appreciative if you're able to take the post survey, and just super grateful for all your participation. And yeah, make sure you grab some cake on the way out. So thanks so much.
Okay, got to make sure I'm talking into this. Thank you, Mary. Sorry, left. Okay, okay. Could someone go grab Maria to see if this thing is positioned right?
I'll get her.
Thank you. Okay. So I just want to make a few announcements before we introduce our presenter. We have Dignity here today, and we really appreciate them coming. This is such an important topic for our caregivers. So we really appreciate, is it Haley?
Yes.
Yeah, Haley and Lane, right?
Yes.
Coming. Okay. Okay, so we just have a couple of announcements. With the holidays coming up, we really need to know who is going to be gone, and also who is going to be here to cover shifts. So if you can let scheduling know when you're going to be gone, and also if you're going to be available to cover shifts, that would be great. We also was going to write these down, but I didn't have time. We also are going to have our Caregiver Appreciation Day for November is going to be November 2nd. And since Halloween is 2 days before that, it's not going to be candy or sweets. Okay. There may be one or two in there because we can't not do that. But it is going to be more substantial than that. Okay. And that's going to be from 10 to 3 anytime during that period. Okay. And then, oh, sure.
Does anybody need a pad or pen? I have a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
Is there, if anybody wants some sketch, like some notepads? Pass them down, pass them around.
You can always use notepads.
Here, pass them, if anybody, and then pens.
That's what I'm saying.
Pass those pens. Take some pens.
You can always use those.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, Karen.
No, you're good.
Everybody grab some pens.
You're good.
Okay.
Oh, Maria, can you just check to see if that's positioned right?
Sorry, Karen, I don't want to interrupt.
No,
you.
you're.
They need
no. That's good. Thank you, Lane. And then we just our next in service is going to be Adult Protective Services on November 14th at noon, and then we'll also have the recording on the 15th and the 16th. We're not sure the times yet for those. Oh,
the 15th is 10 and the 16th is 3 p.m.
Oh, awesome. And I have it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the 15th? No, the 15th, I'm going to give that one to Haley.
Okay.
So, no, the 15th is at 10 and the 16th is at 3, just so that you all know that. Okay, and then we do have something planned in December. We're still in the works with that. So we will announce that as soon as possible. Okay, so Without further ado, we will pass the time over to Haley with Dignity Home Health and Hospice. And thank you so much for being here. We're going to go over bed care skills and just general care for our clients. So thank you so much. Come on in. Oh, you want me to sit there? Okay. Come on up, Lane. And
Well, I'm just going to introduce Haley too a little bit, but real quick, we're Dignity Home Health and Hospice. We love Aspen Senior Care. I don't necessarily need this. Okay. Awesome. And I want to thank Haley for doing this for me and for you guys. She's wonderful. She's one of our CNA coordinators for Dignity Home Health and Hospice. And we're grateful for our relationship with you guys. We feel one of our biggest things with our patients is if we can keep them home, ever so better than losing them to the facilities and different things. Now, obviously, if they need to go to the facility, that's fine. So our relationship, we need your help, and hopefully you need our help a little bit on that medical side. And so just real quick to emphasize, I'm thankful for the relationship, and hopefully we can build that relationship to continue on. And Haley's the one with all the knowledge. All I'm good at is bringing food. And so, all right.
That's the important part, though.
thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I have to have a paper in front of me, or else I just completely lose my mind. So, just gonna have this sitting here. Okay. So today I kind of just wanted to talk about just cares in general, but a lot of like the in-bed patient cares. I also want you guys to ask as many questions as you have, because that's kind of the main thing. Is this is more of just a discussion of what you guys are seeing, and and then just a few tips and tricks that I have learned just being a CNA. Plus, it's not always fun to just hear me come and rant. I love the interaction. Yeah, definitely. So feel free to cut me off in the middle, and then at the end, I'll also have time for questions and just to be able to help out wherever I can. And if I don't know something, I will learn it and come back and let you know. Okay, so I'm just going to start going down the list. So for bed baths, I'm sure that a lot of you guys feel pretty comfortable with bed baths. It's just like a basic care that we can give, but it's also so important. The main thing is just remember to wash from head to toe, just because you don't want any, already like more, I'm trying to think of how to word this best. Pretty much the head's the cleanest part, and then we don't want to contaminate. Thank you. Yes, exactly, because that's never fun. The reason why bed baths are so important is because our patients who are bedbound are not able to get showers. And so bed baths are our way of making them feel clean and able to just feel refreshed. I know that some people don't think that bed baths are as good, but there is ways to do that so that they are getting just as good as a shower would be. There's a lot of little things that we tend to miss as we're doing bed baths. And I like to go over these with my CNAs as well, just because it's just little things that we don't think about. As we're in the shower, we're sitting there and we're washing our hair and we wash behind our ears. And, it's easier on us rather than sitting there and being like, okay, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. So just a couple reminders is I always make sure the eyelids. This sounds really weird, but it's very important. As they're in bed, and if they're just sitting there, they tend to get the little buildup of just like film and everything, and that's just one way to help them feel refreshed. So that's one of the first things I do is as I'm washing the face, just make sure you wash from the inside to the outside of the eyelids, which again, sounds silly, very important. Another thing is behind the ears. I know this one's more common. Everybody hears like, wash behind your ears, wash behind your ears. Make sure that we're doing that with the patients as well. And another one is the belly button. I know a lot of my CNAs are like, that's so weird to wash someone else's belly button. I know it sounds weird, but it does make a difference. And so that's kind of just like the little things that we tend to miss quite often. And maybe you guys are all better at it than I am. But
Can I ask you, how do all of you do bed baths?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
There's
Okay.
some do, some don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like a good range. So just so that I'm on the same page, are some of you guys like caregivers, personal care, and then also some are CNAs or?
Some are CNAs and some are CCAs.
Okay.
So that's a certified companion aid.
Oh.
Right? So we aren't required to hire CNAs, but some of our caregivers are CNAs.
Oh, perfect.
And so yeah.
So the training is great, especially if they're not a CNA, in order to learn how to do that.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
perfect.
we want everyone to know how to do this because we do have clients that we've had who are bedbound.
Okay.
And so.
So it's good to know. So you want me to go more in depth if that's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that, yeah, it's good to know.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just kind of go over my little things and then I can also just show you how I would do a bed bath if that helps. Yeah? Okay. One thing is just changing the water and gloves often because we are going to be doing a full bed bath. We want to make sure that our gloves stay clean as well as the water. It tends to just get cold really fast and our patients don't want an ice cold bed bath. They want a nice warm one. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then also, one thing that I love, I mean, our company's name is Dignity for a reason. I love keeping the dignity for these patients as much as possible. When we rip off the covers, they're sprawled out and they just don't have that sense of privacy, and it's just a way to keep them more dignified. I love keeping either a sheet or towels. Just make sure that they stay covered up if you are not washing that part of the body. So for a bed bath, what I normally do is I get 2 tubs of water. I mean, you guys have probably seen like the other wipes and stuff that we have that are really nice. They're just an easy cleanup. Those work and they're amazing, but every once in a while I just love to give a really good bed bath. So I would just take 2 of the bins and have one with soapy water in it, one with clean. And I actually get a couple of washcloths. I have one to rinse off with and then one to like soap up with. And maybe that's a little bit excessive, but I just want to give them as much as just like a clean refresh as possible. So I normally start with the top. So I would roll. Am I okay to use this?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I was like, should probably ask before I start. Okay, so I'd take my first washcloth and I'd go for the eyelids and then just kind of wash around the face and the neck. And then at that point is when I'd rinse him off and then dry him off, because that's another important piece to this, is making sure that not only are we washing, but drying really well to prevent pressure sores. And then from there, I like to do the arms and make sure you get the armpits really well. I mean, that's kind of obvious. On ladies, you'll lift up the breast and make sure you get really well underneath. And this is one place that we want to make sure stays dry, because that's where a lot of sweat is and everything like that, to where it tends to break down quicker. So then you get the top part of him. And then at this point, this is where I would normally roll and make sure that I get the back side. And one thing that I really want to clarify is know your limits. If you don't think that you can safely roll this patient, if they're a little bit harder to roll, if it's going to injure you or them, please make sure to either ask for help, find another person, anything like that. I can teach you body mechanics and other tips and tricks like that, but you also have to know where your limits are. So at this point, I would roll him to his back, make sure you dry it off, wash it, dry it off after. And then I would go cover him back up. And then I just kind of lift up the end of the blanket. Oh, and this is all neatly and nicely tucked in. I'm going to mess it up. Okay. And then at this point, I would change my washcloths, gloves, and water. And then I do the bottom, make sure that you get the peri area really well. And I'm actually going to go over peri care. So I'll kind of talk more about the directions and everything like that. But I do like one leg, get some more water, second leg, and sorry, when I say get more water, not like replace the water, just get more on my washcloth. And just make sure, especially like in between the toes and everything, are really washed and dried very well before you put the socks back on. And then do pericare and make sure you roll them, and also roll them both directions, because if you roll them one direction, then this whole side won't get clean. So this is a very, I know, kind of looked over part of patient cares, because it's like, oh, it's a bed bath, we'll just do it really quick, all is well, just like another visit that you can get in and out of. But it's also such an important piece to making sure their skin stays clean and dry. Does anyone have any questions with bed baths? Yes.
I just also want to say it's also a good time to look for any skin breakdown and any possible bed sores that are forming. So you really do have to look at everything.
Yes.
So that you can see whether or not something's
Yes, absolutely. And I was actually going to bring that up with pericare as well. That is a good time just to look everything over, because it's not fun when, you know, you show up and you're like, oh, they don't need a bed bath, they don't need this, but I have to check for bed sores. And you're like, hey, let me inspect you, type of thing. Like, it's not as dignified. And so when we're in the middle of a bed bath or pericare, make sure to be looking for that, because that's a good thing that either other nurses will need to know or family. And it is a perfect time to look for it. So thank you. Yes.
One thing I always did, I mean, I haven't got a patient at the moment who needs that or a client, but to throw a couple of towels in the dryer, keep them up, and put them on the clients, so it makes them feel more comfortable and they feel like they're having a spa day rather than, you know.
I love that.
Also using the back of your hand to lift the client's breast, so that makes it much easier. It's not so uncomfortable.
Yes.
As if you use the back of your hand when you're lifting. And always pat dry rather than rubbing.
Then rub.
If they're elderly, their skin tears.
Yeah, thank you. See, I'm learning as much from you as you are from me. But that is very good points. And I just love the little things that CNAs will pick up, such as warming up the towels, just to make it a little bit better of an experience for our patients. Yes.
I've had a couple of clients where I'm giving them either a bed bath or just like a shower. I'll come across patches of skin where there's this buildup, and I'm not sure if it's like excess product or if it's excess skin. It's kind of like this cheesy texture. I don't know. And I guess I've just kind of applied more pressure. I thought maybe I just need to exfoliate the area more. But I don't know. That's something I felt like I haven't really figured out what that is or what I'm supposed to do about it.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I have seen a couple things like that. As far as like doing it on the patient, like I'm not really positive on what it is. But that is something that you could talk to either a nurse if they're in there, or if you're in a facility as well, just having them show you what is best. I definitely wouldn't spend too much time rubbing it if you aren't positive on what it is. But if you do rub it and it comes off pretty easy and it's just like a buildup of some kind, then yeah, it's kind of a case by case on that part. But does anybody else have any more questions before we move on?
I think I'll bring up one thing.
Yeah.
What Haley said, that hopefully, you know, not all of them are going to have, whether it's a hospice nurse or home health involved, but if they do, I hope that you feel a relationship where, or the ability to communicate with them. We try to always have that communication open so that you can ask. We're a team. They're taking care of that client or patient, and you should feel every right to be able to, at least we think that with our patients, and that you can ask questions and communicate so that they get the best care possible. So hopefully that is happening. So
absolutely. And not to sound like a broken record, but I do want to reiterate that, because I've seen it in the patients that I've been the CNA for. And you guys are there a lot more of the time than the hospice CNA who's just in for a few minutes. And so we learn so much from you, and that's why we want to make sure that we do work as a team for our patients, because your voice is just as important, right? Like, it's important for you to voice the things that you're seeing as well. Yes?
I would say from an Aspen standpoint, call Allison and talk to her. Maybe if it's something you've just never seen before, maybe snap a picture and send it to Allison so that we can figure out what it is and what the best way to, because you're right, you don't want to sit and scrub at it because then you risk the tear.
Yes.
But that way, and if they do have a home health agency coming in, like Dignity, then we, Allison, if you're not comfortable calling that nurse, Allison can, and we can make sure that you know. Because that's something that we want to make sure we communicate better on, so that we're not just leaving you hanging.
And sometimes I just wrote it in my notes, like if I have questions, so then the family's aware too, and Aspen's aware. Because I'm assuming you guys read all the notes.
Well, we definitely do now that we have Alaya Care.
Right.
We read them very timely. You know, Allison reads them all within less than 24 hours from when you submit them. So, yes.
I had a situation kind of like that where a client of mine, bedbound, had like a bill. It looks almost greasy. It's like you almost want to like peel it like a scab.
Okay.
And I was like, what is that? You know, I've been here for 3 months. That's the first time I see that, and I come here every single day. So I'll take a picture. He was pretty much aware of what's going on, his situation and everything. I took a picture, and he like called his wife, and his wife came and took it off. He kind of bled a little bit, and it was gone. Don't know what it is. I'm not saying you should do that. Sometimes
The wife did it.
Yes.
yeah, family can take care of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
That is the important piece to it, is that the family was the one who decided to do that.
His son-in-law is a nurse,
Mhm.
and in his case, it was just dry skin on top of dry skin with the oil because it was on this part of the
Oh,
face.
yep.
So it was just built up skin, and
Mm-hmm.
when he took it off, it kind of ripped that first layer. It didn't even bleed; it was just red, like a sore spot. So, and then it went away, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I wasn't here for a week. You get that, so
Yeah.
I sucked as whoever.
Yeah, and that also comes back to the point of bed baths and how important they are, and making sure that we're getting all the little spots that are probably sweaty and will make that buildup. Just because that is important that doesn't happen, so we don't have to peel it off. But or family. Yeah, definitely. And so it's all about that skin and making sure it stays clean. Okay. I will move on to PeriCare, but if anyone has any more comments or questions about bed baths, we can come back to it. Okay, so for PeriCare, we always want to clean front to back. I know that PeriCare is definitely one of the more important things that we do. And if you are unsure on how to do proper PeriCare, I can definitely show you. As well as after we do the PeriCare, I know we're using like wet wipes or something like that, but we also want to make sure that it does stay dry. So if it's just like super moist and hot and just sweaty down there, it's going to be more likely to cause skin breakdown. And so we want to make sure that we're drying it as well. I know that some patients of mine have had like a towel that they like to dry themselves with, as long as it's like a clean towel. I mean, just make sure that it's as dry and clean as possible. Oh, did you have a question?
No, it's gonna sound weird. I have a client who had like an infection, like a yeast infection, and it was staining a lot. And we were like, okay, let's put the medication on and let's let it dry.
Yeah.
And again, she was kind of open, and I grabbed a paper plate, and I was like, because I couldn't patch it. I couldn't touch it with a towel or anything because it was so bad that the skin was peeling off. So I was with a paper towel, and she was like, "That feels nice." So
Yeah.
Until it was dry, and then she was ready to get dressed. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that comes with just like the instincts of being a caregiver is you have to get creative sometimes. Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. And that's another thing I want to point out is about staying dry. I know sometimes we'll get to a patient's home, we check their brief and it's dry and it's there's no BM in it. So we tend to just leave it until, they have a BM or they have any urine output, stuff like that. But it's also important to make sure that we're changing their brief fairly often because they do get hot and sweaty, and that's also causing some of the pressure sores. And so every time that I either go and visit a patient or if I'm like just barely coming on shift type of thing, I love to just make sure they have a clean brief. That way I know for sure the last time it was changed, that it isn't sweaty, it's clean and just dry. And that's just like a personal thing that I like to do, but I also like to say that to you just because it does help and it does make a difference. And then, yeah, there's lots of ways that you can do pericare to maintain patients' dignity. One of the ways that I like to do it is if family is there, especially, I always ask the patient to see if they're comfortable with them being in there. If they're more, trying to think of it, what's the word? Shy or not completely conscious, I still treat them as though they are 100% there and they can hear everything that I'm saying. I always take a blanket or something, and you want to make sure that everything that is clean stays off to the side, definitely, and that we don't contaminate any of the clean sheets with the dirty ones. But I love to just make sure they still stay covered, and as I'm rolling, making sure that I just keep them at a place where they aren't showing all to everyone in the room. And I've had a couple different situations where they're like, no, like we're completely fine with family in there. So they have family all around the bed. That gets tricky because you can't hide it as well. But definitely just make sure it's whatever the patient is most comfortable with, because they're the number one priority. And then again, each is just like case by case. So if you have one person here, you're just going to have to kind of figure it out as you go and make sure that they stay covered. So yeah, that's kind of what I have for pericare. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Yeah.
How would you go about changing a brief that does not have the tabs? It's just like
a pull-up? Okay. Yeah, this gets kind of hard. I know that there's some people who love having the pull-up. It makes them feel more dignified, more like it's underwear rather than an actual brief. And it's always very difficult when they're bedbound. Most of the time, if they were able to stand up on their own, I would put it up to like here and then help them stand and pull it the rest of the way up. If they are in bed, I'm going to give like a couple instances just because it depends on how much the patient is able to help. I've done it, I'm just going to move this off for a second. I've done it where I've just pulled it, you take off their pants and any other like undergarments that they have, and you pull it up as far as possible. You make sure that you don't want to like rip it or anything. And I've gotten it to where you just like bend their legs up. Oh, perfect, it'll stay. Pull it on as much as possible. And then I just kind of assist with the back. And some of the patients are able to help push their hips up and you can pull it on that way. Or I've done it where you can roll the patients. So I get it again, just like up as far as possible. And then I will roll the patient and pull it up on one side and then roll the patient the other way and pull it up on the other side. So hopefully that helps. Most of the time briefs are easier, but I totally understand when some patients just like staying a little bit more covered. Yeah.
Another little trick I have is when you're taking more, just tap the sides, grip the sides,
yes.
and then you can sort of put it over and roll it up and put it out. It makes life easier.
Yeah, definitely just like right on the seams. They're fairly easy to rip. And so, Yep, and just making sure that whatever is under them, if that's a chuck, if that's the draw sheet, that it stays clean as well. Because sometimes when we're pulling down and pulling stuff back up, it can smear. And so just making sure that we're aware of the clean and the dirty again.
Most of the time when I have to change a breathe and to pull out, I rip it on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
I rip them on the side and I use it like as a tab at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I have to put it on, like you said, just put it on and then bend this one, lift up and roll it up, down as far. Same on the other side, just one roll and pull the rest out.
Yep, exactly. And again, that is case by case, because if we have like a hip injury or anything like that, we will have to be careful about the lifting of the hips, and we'd have to do the rolling technique. But also just the more you do it, the more you get comfortable and you learn your own way of doing things. But this is just kind of the way that I do it, and I've gotten through. Okay, anyone else on pericare? Nope. Okay. Draw sheets. Draw sheets are my very best friend. They help me for so many different reasons. When I walk in and I see a patient with a draw sheet under them, it is an amazing day. Sometimes, let me just go down the list. Okay, so when you're there and you're a one person and you're trying to do rolling and stuff like that, draw sheets are a great tool to use.
Pull that out from under the mattress. I just had it tucked in.
Oh, this side?
Yeah.
Perfect.
The other side too.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so the way that I use them is we always want to keep the patient as, what's the actual word I'm trying to think? For like log rolling and stuff, you want to keep them as straight and as aligned. Yes, thank you. As aligned as possible. So the draw sheets are good to use because sometimes when we have a hand right here and a hand back here, they don't always stay as aligned. So I tend to use this because when you pull on this side and this side, it rolls them a little bit better. Another good thing to use these for is when there is two people, you can have somebody here and then also someone on the other side reaching over, and we can both be pulling on the same thing to help get the patient up. So if I were to roll this patient this way, what I would do is I'd first use it to pull them my way. So I'd take this and I move them my way. Oh, I just slid the whole mattress. That's not good. Huh? No, it's okay.
That doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah, that happens. Be concerned. Yeah, that may not be super good. Oh man. And then also just making sure that they are safe, because if you're rolling them towards this side and there's not a person or some kind of bed rail there, you don't want to just full on flip them. So at that point, I would roll them towards me because there's me blocking them. So I'd reach over, same kind of thing. I can either have them cross their arms, or it kind of just depends again on the situation. I'd roll them towards me, and you first get them here, support their back, and then at that point you can move this down and clean up as much as you can here and do it on the other side. Sometimes it's not as ideal with one person, but if you do get in a tricky situation, draw sheets will help a ton. One thing that I've seen a lot of is people using towels as draw sheets. I highly do not recommend this. Maybe I switched those words up. Do not recommend, just because it is thicker and it will cause pressure sores. I know that's a big thing coming up, but pressure sores can cause a lot of problems. So if they have a folded sheet or something else that they can use, that would be best. I know that a lot of people use the towels for the absorption, and yes, it does help with that, but these chucks are just as good. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is if you walk in on a patient and they do have a towel under them, just know that it's a little bit thicker and it will cause more problems. Let's see. Okay, I think that's what I have for that. Anyone have any questions, stories, comments about this?
Well, just one other little thing. It's very useful, isn't it, for moving the patient
Up.
and down
Yep.
bed.
Yes, definitely. And for moving them up, I always try and have 2 people. It is best. It's easier on your back. It's easier on everything. I have gotten in situations where the patient is sliding out of the bed and I need to quickly move them. At that point, I would get to the top and then I'd still use the draw sheet. I kind of support their head like this and I just grab the back, support myself, and move them up. This mattress kind of makes it nice. Slides very easy.
It's not that easy.
Not normally, no.
Can I
Yes, exactly.
I'm amazed. I mean, I'm a big guy, and I've seen some of our CNAs and our nurses, and they're not very big, and man, they're moving them around, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that. You know? So the technique is definitely the thing.
Yeah, a guy like your size can't move at all,
Oh darn.
and I was pulling his undies like he was on a wheelchair. I was pulling his undies and I basically pulled him out of the chair.
Oh,
And
no.
I was like, okay, can you slide back?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I had to always jink, on him. So, but he's like you, he's like big. And he's like, I'm telling you.
Yeah. And that's where proper body mechanics come into play. Yes.
I once had to stop family from trying to yank a person up because they were sliding down the bed because it was one of those that moved. And the family member was gonna like armpit them, and I'm like, no, please don't do that. And I grabbed the sheets and pulled her, and she's like, that was so much smarter.
Yeah, some of the ways that families think is best to move, I've seen people just like grab their arms like this, wanting to kind of just like swing them up, stuff like that, and it just makes me sick. I'm like, no, like let me show you an easier way.
I just had a question. This might be dumb, but how would you put a draw sheet under someone who's in bed already?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of.
I've got a sheet.
Do you have an extra one that we can? I'll just show how to switch it.
It's all fault.
By the door.
It's one of those skills you can come pass on.
That should be good, right? Perfect. Okay. Awesome. The one thing that I like to do is I try and get as much prepared as possible so we can roll as little amount of times as possible. Does that make sense? Sorry, that was like run-on sentence. Yes. So the first thing I would do is lay it on top of them just so that you can see how long it is, because you want to make sure that they're centered on it, because if they're lopsided and then as you try and move them up, someone has this much room to do and then others have more to work with. So I would just go like this and I'd roll it up. I kind of like to scrunch it. And if you have any corrections on this, let me know. I'm like, this is just how I've learned is the best way. So I kind of leave it right there. And then the dirty one, you roll it inwards to make sure that there's no contaminated things on the new one. So I would, let's see, does this arm bend? Nope. Oh, does it? Oh, there we go. I just have to know the right way to do it. Okay, so first of all, before I even roll them, I want to tuck this as far under as possible. And at this point, some of the patients will be able to help. They'll be able to grab onto the side rail and kind of roll over. And it just kind of depends on what your patient is able to do. And then this one, I just kind of get lined up just right behind it, but try not to touch it as little, or try to touch it as little as possible to the contaminated one. At this point, if there's a side rail there, anything like that, I would have the patient reach for it. I would, if it's just me, I'd either use just like my arms, like this. Okay. Okay, great, thank you. This would not be a good presentation if he rolls off. Okay, and I'm just gonna tuck it as far under him as possible. Right now is a good time to make sure that none of the shirt's contaminated, the pants, anything like that. At most points that I do this, I will be in the middle of a brief change. This is a great time to wipe, make sure that everything's clean, apply barrier cream, whatever is needed. And then at that point, you tuck the new draw sheet in. Okay, and then once you get it all lined up, make sure that it's at like a good place on its back so that you are able to move and also protect like the sheets if that was a concern as well. So right here is going to be hard because they do have a big lump of sheets to roll over, so I like to press them down as much as possible. We roll him back. Okay, and then definitely still be talking to the patients like, okay, we're just going to roll one more time to my side. So at that point, you'll roll them this way. And right here, you can kind of see how we're doing it, where this is all rolled up in. And you will dispose of this however, if you're at a facility, if you're at someone's home, either put it in the washer, stuff like that. And then this, you can just perfectly unfold. And then you'll just roll them back.
One of the things I do when I'm doing that, I also put the check sheet on top and fold it up, and then that way you're not having to
do it twice.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is good to remember. I also do that if I'm in the middle of a brief change. I also measure out where the brief will go, and I'll slide the brief under at the same time. Yep, so those are just good things to remember, that you don't have to be like, okay, now we have to do the chuck and we roll them again and then the brief and do it again. Just trying to make it as easy on the patient as possible.
It's easy if you have a second person.
Yes, it is.
Especially if the client of the person is like asleep or unconscious or is not awake.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I had one that she was asleep, like she was unconscious, not waking up at all. So I always had a family member there, and they will help me out.
Yes.
Like hold it, and I will do everything back. So
yeah,
it's easier.
Definitely, and that's actually something that I wanted to touch on, because I feel like when we go in and we're the caregivers, I know a lot of the families look to us for being the professionals. We can do anything. We know the proper techniques. Sometimes we are not magic. We are not superheroes. We can't lift a 300-pound person into a chair on our own. There's just only so much we can do. I know, I wish. And so I always clarify with my CNAs that, again, know your limits. Know what you are able to safely do, because we don't want to injure either me or the patient, because if I'm injured, I can't help my other patients. So not only is it like a problem where I can't help this patient, it's all of my other ones that are affected as well, with something that could have easily been asked for help and fixed. As far as, making sure that you stay protected, body mechanics. This saves me all the time. You want to make sure you know how much your patient can help, because if your patient's like, no, I can stand up on my own, I can do this, sometimes they've tricked me and I believe them, and then they definitely can't. But as far as like scooting them up in bed, you don't ever want to lean over. You want to make sure that you keep yourself grounded, but see how much they're able to help as well. If that's bending their knees as you're scooting them up so that they can kind of support themselves, if that's help sitting up, you just want to make sure that you are taking a lot off yourself, your back, because this is a rough job for backs. You want to make sure that the bed's raised so you aren't always leaning over. There's a lot of things that can keep you from getting injured, and I know that's a big one in this field, is making sure that we don't get injured so that we can keep giving the best care to all of our patients. So please feel free to always ask for help. If that is a family member, if that is whoever is around, I'm not sure in this company if
you call Allison
awesome.
and say, I need some help, I need it now, and somebody will drop something and come and help. Or, you know, and you can also say, like, if we think, oh, well, you can do it, and you're like, no, I can't, you can say, show me how you want me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
because that way you know, you're letting me know you need some training. If I expect you to do it on your own, then let me show you how I expect you to do it on your own. And if you can't do it, you can't do it, because we're not gonna. I just had back surgery in May, so I'm a good what not to do, because for 30 years I've done everything wrong, and now I'm paying for it. And there's nothing I can do to fix it because the damage is done. And so the idea is to try to say, how do we keep your young backs young and healthy without having to then get to my spot and go, dang.
Yep.
Nothing you can do, sorry.
The client that I used to have that is the size of this guy. I had to put him on a shower chair. Again, he can't move.
Wow.
Okay? He can't do anything.
Yep.
And the person who was doing it before, they told guy,
yep.
You know, could just sort of put him on the chair. And I was like, wow, that looks easy, but I don't have those arms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that long.
Yep.
So I always had the wife helping me on that side, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I pull over here, you push over there, both together can do it, you know, we can do it together.
Yes.
Everything else I could do it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that. So I had to train another person. I'm like, this is my situation. The person before could do it this way. Let's see how you can do it.
Yeah.
And she could. She had long arms.
Yeah.
Because it's like a Hoyer lift, so I had to pull from way before front, like the legs.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't reach. So.
Yeah, and that definitely makes it hard when the person before you was able to just do it. And then I've had that happen to me many times where I come in and I'm like, okay, the person before me must have been a bodybuilder because I can't do that. And so this has definitely been a good job just for me to learn my boundaries as well. There was one more thing I wanted to touch on with this, and there's my CNAs love to play this game because I tell them that I will never do anything or I will never expect them to do anything that I can't do myself. And so they'll call me and they're like, Haley, there's this patient, this is what's going on. They're like, I'm not able to do it. I'm like, oh, come on, it's a shower. I'm like, I'll show you. So I walk in and I'm all confident. I'm like, I can get this person in the shower. I know it. And I take one step in and I'm like, this ain't happening, right? And so that's one thing is they love to just prove to me that they're like, I will try my very best, but again, I will never force them to do anything they don't feel comfortable with or I would want to do myself. And I know we have some patients who just love to shower. They do not want to give up their showers, but it's time for a bed bath. And you need to be able to stand up for yourself and say, you know what, I'm not comfortable getting him in the shower, getting her in the shower. I don't think it's the best option. If we want to see if there's another caregiver or something that we can bring in at the same time. Again, I'm not really sure how that's working.
We have a couple of clients that 2 caregivers go to help move them around.
That's awesome.
Because we can't do it alone. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Make sure you're communicating that with the office because Allison would never ever want you to do something that you can't do. So.
Mm-hmm. Communication is so important in this field, and I love it.
So I have a client.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes she can stand and take a shower.
Mm-hmm.
Some other times she can't.
Yep.
Okay. So I will get there, and I'll be like done with the first routine with the husband, and then go with a sit with her. I'll be like, how are we feeling? Can you stand? Can you not? Let's see. If you can stand, we're gonna do a bed bath. If you can, then I'll help you with the shower. You know, we'll sit down and I'll help you with the shower. Some days are great. Some days she's good. She can do it. Some other days she has to stay in bed.
Yep. And that all goes with the good and bad days.
Yeah.
And I feel like as you get to know a patient more, you can tell when those good and bad days are.
Yeah, and she accepts it. You know, she's like, I see, I'm not good. I thought I was good. I'm not good. Let's do a bed bath. And I'm like, okay. Some other days I'm like, are you sure? You're jerking a lot.
Yeah.
Should we try that a little bit later? You know, she's like, okay, I'll do this.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing is you are the professional. You've seen other patients going through the same thing. So just letting them know in the nicest way possible, not like, hey, you can't stand, you can't get a shower, right? So you know what? I don't think today is a good day. It's not going to be safe for either of us. Let's try again tomorrow. Let's try it the next day.
And sometimes I know she can do it, but she's scared. And I'm like, we don't have to do it right at the second.
Nope. Yeah.
I'm gonna do everything else, and I'll come back to you. And if you're ready, we'll move into it. You know?
Awesome. Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
Just definitely being respectful of the patient and what they're needing at that time. So I love that. That is a great example. Okay, and then I know we've kind of talked about preventing bed sores as far as making sure they're clean and dry. A couple other things I want to go over is just pillow placement and other things that you can use to keep pressure off of certain areas. So one way that I like to do it is I can either roll up a towel if that helps, or if they have other little pillows in the house that you can use as well. If they have a pressure sore on like this side, I would definitely pull up this side, put a pillow under it so that it's taking the pressure off of that side, or vice versa. Especially under hill pressure sores is a rough one, and you tend to see these a lot on hospice patients or anyone who is bedbound. Just making sure that if you are going to put a pillow underneath their legs, that their heels are not touching the pillow, but then also that if you put the pillow under, sometimes if we put it too high up, the heels are still touching and it does nothing. So just making sure that the placement is very, I'm trying to think, just very, there's a reason that you put it there, not necessarily just like throwing it under just to make it look like it, right? Purpose, yeah, very purposeful where you're placing it. Thank you. I seem to be like losing all the words today. Okay, that's kind of how or everything that I have. Is there anything you guys would like me, anything else you'd like me to go over? Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I do. I have a client, and I've only seen her a few times, and so I'm still learning. But she has a hard time standing. She wears a brace, but she wants to use the toilet as well, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But she has a really hard time standing, and so I need to. And it's also a very, you know, you get those narrow balconies,
Yes.
and it's just, and I'm not a small person, but just being able, do you have any suggestions for being able to have her, because she does have some arm strength, but to hold onto her, to try and do the pericare and to pull the brief up, like I end up using too much of my back with her, and I don't know, like, what I'm doing wrong or what I need to do differently as far as, do you have any suggestions for somebody who is kind of standing, but not really. I mean, pericare in the bed would be very easy, obviously, but she's also got dementia, so she's she wants to do it her way. And
something that helped me with somebody like that was have them hold on to something else but me.
I can try that. She just forgets, and then she lets go, like within 10.
It's like,
I mean, and I think she's getting to the point where it's getting to the point where they're just gonna have to say, hey, you know, I can't, because every time I'm done with that shit, my back is really not feeling well. Because, you know, she just is, she forgets, like, oh yeah, this is on you, or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you have any other?
So I'm not really sure how like the bathroom and everything is laid out. What I like to do is at first, when I first became a CNA, I would always be in front of them. They'd grab onto my shoulders. I lift them up, and then trying to do pericare from around and behind is very hard. If there is a way that you could get them to where they're standing and holding onto a bar, I feel like that's easier for me because I can help them up and kind of hold them up with one hand, do the pericare, everything that's needed. But also I can take a step back and I can kind of see their knees. If they're starting to wobble, I know that I'm going to have to catch them soon. Or
you say behind them.
Yes, I stand behind them. I know. It won't work in that one? Okay, let me think. I'm trying.
But that's okay. That's really good. I mean, for future. So,
Yeah, no, I'm just. Ooh, this is a hard one.
Have you been down on something? Like, been down on something, kind of like a small, table or something?
Does she
It's
have
hard
a
in the
wheelchair?
bathroom.
Does she use a
She's in a
wheelchair?
wheelchair.
She's in a wheel. I just wondered if you could get the wheelchair by the door, and then you could turn her around so you can get her leaning down onto the wheelchair, where you could get to the back of her.
I'm not sure she has the strength.
Yeah, that's a different
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And that, like you
I'm just
said,
trying
is
to get her
probably.
clean and
Mhm.
like I just feel like I'm not doing the best job because I really can't see what's going on down there with where I'm standing because I have to be in front of her because
Mhm.
that's the way the bathroom is.
Yep.
So maybe with the wheelchair, maybe she can, but I don't think she's pretty much like her weight is kind of over me and I'm trying to wipe her and pull her up.
Just everything at once.
She's 99, so you know.
Have you tried to?
Talk to Allison
Okay.
about that client in particular.
Okay,
And let
sure.
know.
And I'm sure the other caregivers don't have a problem with it. They must know how to do it. I just don't. I just
No, but-
need
but-
help.
Well,
That's all.
so
Yeah.
this is where you say, Allison, tell me how you want me to do it.
Okay.
And then there might be a conversation with the family thing.
Does she sit
Especially
on the
how
toilet
small
at
the
all?
bathroom is.
Does she sit on the toilet at all?
Yeah, she will sit on.
Because we put a bidet in for my mom
So
because
she-
she's 95. And
She has one, but yeah.
so it's still not
hard.
clean.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just hard to know. You
Plus then
can't.
you gotta dry it off anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get
Yeah,
a toilet
so
next to her
let's,
bed.
Okay.
take some
Just a
time, let's
portable
talk
one.
about
Okay.
that client
Awesome.
in particular, because we don't want you to hurt your back.
Mm-mm.
So.
No, and that's a rough one, especially in the small bathrooms. I get in, and the CNA before me has just done an amazing job, and they're like, "Yeah, super easy, shower this," and I'm like trying to figure out how to get them from here to here with this much space, right? And so,
Yep.
yeah,
I used to suck it in. No,
exactly.
serious. Like,
Yeah.
But that's where it's good to say, well, so show me how you did that. Because
Yes.
they've already figured out the tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes all we need is the tricks that someone else
Exactly.
has already figured out. So
Yep.
let's do that.
Well, I had to train somebody, not train. I had to show somebody who was a nurse that came from hospital to attend this person how I did the bathroom with them because they were gonna do the bathroom. It was time for me to go, and then we're gonna do a shower after.
Yeah.
But I was taking her to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, this is what I do. And then I look at her and I'm like, you have a lot, so it's not gonna work. This is what we're gonna do. You know? So, but luckily she had like a window kind of above in a bar. And that's another thing. She had dementia. So I was like, are you holding? Hold. You're holding. And I will like touch their hand like, hold. You know, she will be like, but hold.
Yeah, for sure.
But she had a bar in a window that she would like to like touch, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was easier that way and guide the hips to the toilet and like stand up, stand right there, clean, and then bring the wheelchair just right into her
Oh wow.
to get
And
her
you
out.
need some handles on both sides of the toilet too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many amazing things that they have now and tools for us that'll help, different gait belts, different just accessories for the toilet, showers, stuff like that. And definitely if they're accessible to you, use them. They're amazing.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not having you falling.
Yep. Nope. We definitely don't want that. Okay. Anyone else? No?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me come. It's been fun to get to know you guys. And thank you.
Haley, thank you so much. This
Oh,
was
absolutely.
really, wasn't this so amazing? It was really, really helpful. It is turned on, I hope.
I am very glad
is.
that it was helpful and that hopefully it all made sense. Because
No, it
sometimes
did. It's a good refresher, and I think you can always use it. I know some of us just have companion shifts, but a lot of us have really difficult shifts where, and it's even helpful if you have clients that are kind of still, you know, they can still get up and do things, but they're still kind of sort of, you know, having iffy
Yes.
So, yeah. But anyway, thank you so much.
Oh,
and this is for you.
Thank you. You guys are so kind.
There is cake upstairs. So after your donut for lunch, this is your dessert. So go ahead and have some dessert. And we'll see you at in-service next month. But remember, caregiver appreciation is on the 2nd. So
Make sure you've signed in. If you haven't, because that's how we know you're here.
oh yes, and the hand sanitizer. There's refills of hand sanitizer. Check with Diane.
If you
Okay.
haven't picked up hand
Oh,
sanitizer,
yes.
Do you want me to put that sheet back under?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're fine.
That was so good. I honestly did a very rapid range of like what you wanted. So I was like,
Yeah, it was. No, but this was perfect. We started this off, so we're like.
I'm so sorry.